Hi friends, in last video we've seen how the habit of thinking win-win works. In this video I'm gonna talk about another life-changing habit, and that is habit of listening. Yes, you heard it right. Now you might have thinking about how the habit of just listening will change your life. Suppose you've been having trouble with your eyes and you decided to go to an optometrist for help. After briefly listening to your complaint, he takes off his glasses and hands them to you, which he worn for 10 years and really helped him. You put them on, but it only makes the problem worse. You can't see a thing. Though the optometrist is saying it worked great for him, you try harder, think positive. But you possibly can't see a thing. You end up seeing everything as a blur. Well, what are the chances you go back to that optometrist the next time you need help? Not very good, right? Well, Mr. Stephen Covey perfectly depicted this habit called seek first to understand, then to be understood. So let's start. Right now you're watching this video which will help you to improve your better version, and you are engaged with listening, which is one of the 4 basic types of communication like speaking, reading, writing, etc. We've spent most of our waking hours communicating, but consider this. You have spent years learning how to read and write, years learning how to speak, but what about listening? When another person speaks, we usually listening at one of our 4 levels. We may be ignoring another person, not really listening at all. We may practice pretending. Yeah, right. We may practice selective listening, hearing only certain part of the conversation, or we may even practice attentive listening, paying attention and focusing energy on the words that are being said. But very few of us ever practice the 5th level, the highest form of listening, empathic listening. Communication experts estimate, in fact, that only 10% of our communication is represented by the words we say. Another 30% is represented by our sounds, and 60% by our body language. Empathic listening is deeply therapeutic and healing because it gives a person psychological air. If all the air was suddenly sucked out of the room you are in right now, what would happen to your interest in this video? You won't care about the video, you won't care about anything except getting air. Survival would be your only motivation. Next to physical survival, the greatest need of human being is psychological survival, to be understood, to be affirmed, to be validated, to be appreciated. Although it's risky and hard, seek first to understand or diagnose before you prescribe is a correct principle manifest in many areas of life. Example: author and his wife, concerned about their little baby, as a vomiting and diarrhea made the situation worse, and they decided to take a medical advice from the physician. As physician was busy with his schedule, he asked the situation. His wife described the symptoms and doctor given some prescriptions and hang up the call. Well, Stephen realized that his wife given full data, but doubtful about to mention the baby was newborn. But his wife was pretty sure about the physician knows that. And Stephen called him back again and asked, "Doctor, when you called in that prescription, did you realize that Jenny is just 2 months old?" Doctor said, "No, I didn't realize that. It's good you called me back. I'll change the prescription immediately." So if you don't have confidence in the diagnosis, you won't have the confidence in the prescription. Because we listen autobiographically, we tend to respond in one of 4 ways. We evaluate, we either agree or disagree. We probe, we ask questions from our own frame of reference. We advise, we give counsel based on our own experience, or we interpret, we try to figure people out to explain their motives, their behavior based on our own motives and behaviors. So let's look at what might be a typical communication between father and his teenage son. Look at the father's word in terms of 4 different responses we've just described. Boy said, "Dad, I've had it. School is for the birds." Dad said while probing, "What's the matter, son?" Boy said, "It's totally impractical. I don't get a thing out of it." Obviously, his father was well intended. Obviously, he wanted to help. But did he begin to really understand? Let's look more carefully at the son. Not just his words, but his thoughts and feelings, and the possible effect of some of his dad's autobiographical responses. When boy said this, his honest feeling was, "I want to talk to you to get your attention." And when father said this, the boy's honest feeling was, "You're interested, good." And the boy said this, his feeling was, "I've got a problem with school and I feel just terrible." Can you see how limited we are when we try to understand another person on the basis of words alone, especially when we are looking at that person through our own glasses? Can you see how limiting our autobiographical responses to a person who is genuinely trying to get us to understand his autobiography? So let's see 4 more interesting scenarios. Boy said, "Dad, I've had it. School is for the birds." And you said, "You had it. You think school is for the birds." You have essentially repeated back the content of what was being said. You haven't evaluated or probed or advised or interrupted. You have at least showed you're paying attention to his words. but to understand, you want to do more. The second stage of emphatic listening is to rephrase the content. It's a little more effective, but it's still limited to the verbal communication. Boy said, "Dad, I've had it. School is for the birds." You said, "You don't want to go to school anymore." So this time you put his meaning into your own words. Now you are thinking about what is said, mostly with the left side, the reasoning, logical side of the brain. The third stage brings your right brain into operation. You reflect feeling. Boy said, "Dad, I've had it. School is for the birds." You said, "You are feeling really frustrated." Now you are not paying as much attention to what he is saying as you are to the way he feels about what he is saying. The fourth stage includes both the second and the third. You rephrase the content and reflect the feeling. Boy said, "Dad, I've had it. School is for the birds." You said, "You are really frustrated about school." So frustration is the feeling, school is the content. You are using both sides of your brain to understand both sides of his communication. So let's see honest feeling of a boy when he said this, "I want to talk to you to get your attention." And when dad said this, boy's feeling was, "That's right, that's how I feel. I'm sure it's totally impractical, I'm not getting a thing out of it." Now father and the son are on the same side of the table looking at the problem instead of on opposite sides looking across at each other. The son is opening his father's autobiography and asking for advice. When you can present your own ideas clearly, specifically, visually, and most important contextually in the context of deep understanding of their paradigms and concerns, you significantly increase the credibility of your ideas. This is all about the fifth habit of seek first to understand, then to be understood by Stephen Covey from the book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which you can buy on the link I've given in the description below. Please hit the like button if you really feel this video pushed you a little ahead, and share this with your dear ones. Comment if you have any suggestion for our channel, and don't forget to subscribe for more such videos on weekly content. Thanks a lot.